what you can realistically achieve in 8 weeks, which oftentimes can be a bit of a point of frustration for coaches. Hello and welcome to another vlog on YouTube and podcast on Spotify by the Fit Minds podcast. Coach Mariah, I am riding solo today, which is not something I often do, but I've got Alex home on holidays. He's with the baby. She's refusing to sleep today, so it's just me. Today's podcast, I'm going to try and keep it short and sweet. I want to try and get back to enjoying my New Year's Day. Have been working, have been to the gym, have set some new goals, even though I'm not a big fan of New Year's resolutions. I do like the idea of setting intentions for a year, potentially. And if we don't have yearly goals, then we tend to lose sight of what we're actually trying to achieve. You know, if we don't set them out and lay them out and even write them down, we can kind of float through life. So anyway, I'm going to do another podcast on that because I think that would be appropriate for this time of the year. I've done one before on New Year's resolutions, but I think certainly I might do one on setting realistic expectations of oneself and what that would look like, especially in the way of fitness and nutrition, maybe mindset stuff as well. But today's podcast is going to be based around 8-week challenges. We call ours an 8-week journey because we see it to be different to 8-week challenges or typical ones that you've seen that go around your gyms, not to hang shit on them and certainly not to talk crap about other coaches and their methods, but I've been in the fitness industry for almost 10 years now. I've seen it all. I have seen cookie cutter approaches. I have seen fitness challenges that don't have any sort of, I would say, specific nutrition guidelines. I've seen people go into these things, pay a whole lot of money and come out of them with not much to show for it. Not just in the way of results, but also in the way of knowledge to be able to apply for the rest of their life. And that's what's most important, is that we do have a little bit of a disconnect here with what is a lifestyle and what is 8 weeks. So I do see quite often, not necessarily with our own 8-week journeys, but certainly people who have done things like diets or quick fix shreds, or they've done detoxes, or they've done exclusion diets, whatever it might look like, and it's only lasted 6 to 8 weeks, or perhaps only lasted a couple of weeks, because we all know it's not maintainable. So first off, I want to reiterate that part of this podcast, I'm going to talk a little bit about our 8-week journey and what that entails, because there's only so much you can really see on social media when you are watching reels, when you're reading captions. We can only really describe what's on offer in short text. You can't really picture what it looks like long term unless you're listening to something like this. So with our 8-week journey, we've got one launching, I suppose if you're listening to this podcast, it'll be the day before it launches. So on Monday, the 6th of January. The idea behind that was that we wouldn't start an 8-week journey on a Wednesday. Not many people would probably sign up for that. It's just people like to start on Mondays, and that is understandable, being a little bit against the type of mentality I like to preach. We've got one starting. We've only got 2 spaces left for that intake. So if you do know of anybody who, I don't know whether we will actually have any spaces because I'm filming this on a Wednesday, so I may actually book out. The other ones, whenever I've had 2 spaces at this point, are always sold out, but you never know. Yeah, we've only got 2 spots left at the moment. If you know anyone who's getting back from, a lot of people are getting back from camping on Monday, we actually can squeeze people in last minute. We can set them up on the Monday. It's okay for them to start a day late. And I've got a couple of clients doing that. I've got another client who's starting a week late, and we are just going to credit her an additional week, which is just what we're looking at doing to be able to fit in with other people's schedules. So if you do know anybody who wants to start, doesn't know where to start, the 8-week journey is actually a really good place to start. Certainly for anyone who's a newbie, who've never trained before, never tracked macros, never eaten on a meal plan, never dieted, or even has dieted and not had a lot of success, or has I would say not poor, but moderate to not so great knowledge of nutrition. Nutritional literacy and nutritional numeracy is not as good as they would like it to be, because this course is definitely about teaching our clients as much as possible the ins and outs of nutrition, and certainly giving them, whether it be enough tools to get by, to be able to get them results, or at the other end, giving them enough tools to succeed even well and beyond this journey. So what's awesome about this 8-week is it's really comprehensive. So we end up basically giving you a personalized training program that would be based around, we've got people who are at home, they don't have any equipment, we can definitely tailor for that. So we literally write the programs ourselves from scratch. There's demo videos for instructional exercise videos, which means that they don't have any reason not to perform the exercises. There's a there in your training program, which is awesome. So you can do it in the comfort of your own home, okay? And it's tailored. Big difference between our 8-week journey and many other 8-week journeys, or what I would say challenges, is that oftentimes you're getting a program which is just a carbon copy of the previous, client's program or the rest of the 8-week challenge. So you might get just the basic gym program, and generally it's not tailored to you at all. Things like they'll have you doing maybe like deadlifts, squats, and bench or something like that. So very powerlifting style training, or they may just have you on a really basic bodyweight program, but you may be more skilled than that. So this is the issue. One of the issues that can arise with 8-week challenges is that they often will, because they make it so cheap usually, they'll do a one size fits all. And by no means does one size fit all when it comes to an 8-week challenge or journey. And in that, you often find that if someone, signs up 20 people, 100 people, however many people they sign up for their 8-week challenges, that they will write a program that they think would be most suitable for majority of the population. And of course, there will be a large chunk of people who can get results from that, right? Because they are, it's specific to that part of the population. There's going to be the outliers. So there's going to be beginners, there's going to be mums, people postpartum, breastfeeding, what I would call to be minorities. And then you're going to have people who are quite advanced, where the program may not be difficult enough for them. There may not be enough training days, or there may be too little. So actually, when we say personalized, what we do is we go through a health pre-screen. It's extensive, it's lots of questions, but it actually only takes 5 minutes to complete, which is pretty cool. You go through a process of consultation. So I do a consult with every single client. Even if they straight sign up, I'll always reach out and talk to them about anything that they've got questions with, or their goals, what they're wanting to achieve, or their pain points, their struggle points. You'll personally be talking to me. It's always me. That's why I work so hard, is because I'm always the person talking to clients, especially in those early phases of this 8-week journey. And so we go through this really, I would say, like, detailed explorative process leading into this transformation type of style period or block. And the way that it differs from, say, like a normal coaching experience where you would just sign up for check-ins, is that when you have a specific space of time to work with, so there is a good reason why we do 8 or 12-week challenges, or journeys as I call it, because I like to see it as a journey. I don't like to see it as just a once-off thing that ends and that's it and you don't have anything to do after that. It is a journey, it's a learning experience. And it takes that kind of edge off it as well, which a lot of people see, like 8-week challenge, like drop kilos fast. And it's like, you will drop body fat or you will grow muscle, whatever you want to achieve, we can tailor to. But it is very gimmicky when you see 8-week challenges and it's the same shit just shoved down your throat over and over again. So when I came up with Fierce, the idea behind it was that it was to be tailored to most people. Most people can join Fierce. There is no reason why you could not, unless you're an incredibly complex case, in which case I've got to pass you on to another coach that like it might be a severe injury or something we've got to try and work around. But for the most part, a lot of the people we get in our 8-week journeys are mums, millennial women. I've even had women in their 50s as well, so not necessarily just millennial women. Working women, career women, men in our journey as well. So there's no sort of, like, it's not specifically tailored for women versus men. It is a really good sample of the way that we coach at MJ Fit. So it's a great representation of our training styles, and that can differ as well. If a person comes to us and says, look, hey, I do classes, I do F45, or I do this, or I do that. I want to keep doing a little bit of that, but I want to do some weights training as well. I want to do my spin class. I want to incorporate this in. I've got a lady signing up who is doing some police force training. I want to do some circuit training, whatever it is that is specific to their goals. And so we'll go through that scoping process. It's quite, as I said, explorative and detailed. It's not something that you're going to get in a challenge which has been designed by a coach who has millions of followers. They will not have the time to reach out and message 300 to 400 to 500 people, which they might get in a challenge. And we all know there are some pretty notorious culprits for this in the industry. Don't get me wrong, they are by luck and by chance going to have people who will accomplish great things in these challenges, because if they can facilitate a calorie deficit, if they're training frequently enough, and they might have a pretty good physique to start off with, they're going to get great results at the end of these challenges. So oftentimes it's the masses that do, like in the mass challenges, it's the masses that show the results from these challenges. Something that I wanted to come up with was designing this 8-week journey around, albeit creating a lot more work for myself, being a lot more personalized to each individual person. And I have not seen anything out on the market like this, where you have the option to be able to sign up and have a meal plan, where someone is designing, one of our coaches, myself or Chloe, is designing a meal plan for you that you can follow throughout your journey. It's tailored to you, your food likes, dislikes. It's not just chicken and rice. It's not basic. It's food that you can actually enjoy, foods and meals that your family can eat as well, which is really exciting. It's not just basically boring and no sort of flavor. The other part of that is that that's at the end of the scale. At the other end of the scale, you have access to, and you've got a choice to do this, a video course, 27 instructional videos from memory. And it's not just about nutrition and how to track your calories, how to track your macros. We give you the specifics behind what your calories and macros are for your goals so you can track them, how to do that accurately, common mistakes, things like your water intake and how to get more water in and the benefits of drinking more water, how to get more steps in, why we need to get more steps in, the information about micronutrient intake and why we need micronutrients, hormone balance, how to train, how to hypertrophy, how to take a diet break, what a diet break is and why we take diet breaks, how to eat out flexibly, how to literally eat meals out when you're going out and you're still wanting to get results or maintain. And so this, library of videos isn't just, they're not just 5-minute snippets. Some of these are 20 minutes, half an hour, which will explain in depth how to do this shit long term. Now you might think to yourself, well, my head's going to hurt if I watch 27 videos in a row. And of course you don't need to do that. You can watch it across your 8 weeks. But this is the type of stuff I'm talking about, where when you ask for an 8-week journey, the things that you need to look for. And as I was saying before, when you have this impending event, right? So you've got this very strict timeline to work with, it's specifically 8 weeks or 12 weeks. The good thing about that, the benefit about having a specific amount of time to work with versus ongoing coaching, where you're getting check-ins, is that you have a limited amount of time to achieve a certain goal. So you only have 8 weeks. So you have 8 weeks within a group environment, which can be quite, in a good way, it can create healthy competition. So I often find that those who are best suited to an 8 or 12-week journey are those who need a very strict timeline to work by, or rather, they don't have pressure on them, so then they don't see themselves achieving that goal. For myself, I like to give myself specific timelines, and because I'm self-accountable, I tend to stick to those. Unless you have a timeline in an impending event, oftentimes you will float. There are some people out there who can go from week to week and find that those small mini goals are even better for them than an 8 to 12 week goal. So the benefits of an 8 to 12 week, even a 6 week, I think 6 is a little short, but the benefits of an 8 to 12 week journey is that you have a limited amount of time to achieve a goal. You have people alongside you who are trying to achieve sometimes similar goals, different goals, have that similar drive, and obviously have that drive to achieve something in a shortened space of time. So it's kind of like a little bit like a race, is the way I would put it, but paced. It's a paced race. So the psychology behind time-bound challenges is that people get excited because they have to commit to a specific start date as well. So unlike ongoing coaching, one-on-one coaching, you can start when you want to, whereas in an 8-week journey, you have to commit to a certain date, just like we have set dates. If I was to get rid of that and we were to do, start whenever you want to, I think we would potentially see that there would be no urgency, right? So when you have to start at a certain time, it's like a kick up the bum. It's like someone is saying to you, well, if you don't do it now, then it's never going to happen. So oftentimes that little bit of pressure that we place on people almost motivates them to get their shit together faster, if that makes sense. And you can relate that in a sense of like, you would procrastinate and put something off unless there was an impending event, right? So unless you had a time that you had to get to the doctors, unless you had a time that you had to meet up with somebody for coffee, unless you had a time that you had to go somewhere for a meeting, the same applies to unless you have a specific day that you have to start something. You often will, you find people put that off. They'll procrastinate and then as a result self-sabotage and not actually achieve anything at all and not start. They'll completely ignore the idea that there's any sort of, as I said, urgency placed on that. So point of this podcast is talking about what you can realistically achieve in 8 weeks, which oftentimes can be a bit of a point of frustration for coaches. You will have some coaches, trainers, who, whatever you like, the industry, who will make some pretty heavy promises, false promises to people. They'll say things like, yeah, it's totally achievable to lose 2 to 3 kilos per week, for 8 weeks. Look, maybe if you're 150 kilos, and even then that rate of loss may even be slightly too high. There's a few reasons why rate of loss will differ from person to person, and what is realistic and what is safe and what is healthy and what is not going to see the person muscle waste, which is not what we want, right? So there's a few guidelines, right? And so we see anywhere between 0.5 and 1.5% of total body weight. So this idea that it's realistic for me to lose a kilo, exactly 1 kilo. I don't know why people get in their minds like 8 weeks, 8 kilos. Again, if you're over 100 kilos, potentially. And I have seen people do that, 8 to 10 kilos in 8 weeks. But that is generally when they are in a weight range which is above 100 kilos, and that is to do with the percentage of the total body weight. So as you would be aware, the higher someone's body weight is, the more relative the percentage is. So 1% at 100 kilos is 1 kilo, 1% at 50 kilos is 500 grams. And this is why oftentimes you can get people signing up to an 8-week journey. They may weigh 65 kilos, they may be dropping a couple of 100 grams per week, 300 to 500, maybe 600 grams, and then they might be disheartened because they're not dropping a full kilo. And so this is where we've kind of set that bar too high. It is based on percentage rate of loss, not a round number. And when you start to actually think about that, oh, cool, it's actually relative to my body weight, then you realize, hold on, maybe I've been putting too much pressure on myself as to what's possible and what I can actually lose in that time. Could you lose more? Absolutely. If we pushed you a bit harder and we, gave you a ton of cardio, when we chopped your calories right down, I would say, yeah, potentially you could lose that kilo per week. The problem though is that when we exceed that 1.5% of total body weight, whatever that might look like at whatever weight you are, you see the instance of risk of muscle wastage. We just see that at that rate of loss, atrophy is a problem. And so what we don't want your body doing is we don't want your body eating bits of your own muscle. Things like the quads that you've grown, or that you want to have definition in your legs. You want to see that line. You want to see, abs, and you want to see your shoulder lines or whatever it might be, back lines. You want to have a firm bottom. It's like, that's all muscle. And so if we encourage the process of muscle wastage just to lose weight in general, I want to lose a kilo. If you would imagine that of that kilo, 200-300 grams, could be muscle. 100 grams could be muscle if you're pushing yourself too hard and going above that 1.5% rate of loss, right? And so you'd kick yourself if you knew that you were doing that and if that was happening. And the problem with this as well is that when we lose muscle mass, unfortunately, our metabolic rate decreases as well, which basically just means that your ability to burn energy reduces. So it would be kind of like having I always compare to cars, humans to cars. I don't know why, I know nothing about cars, but it's a good analogy. It'd be like you've got this really good car, you've got some muscle on there, or maybe you're not a Porsche, maybe you've got, I don't know, see, I'm terrible with cars, I don't know brands. Maybe you've got a Land Rover, I don't know. But let's say you've got a car, it's pretty good. And because you want the car to look different, look better, whatever, you start taking parts away from it. But not only are you taking parts that you don't want on the car, you're also taking parts that are very necessary and needed in a good quality car. So you're taking bits of the engine and you're not putting them back. So this is the concept of is that as we muscle waste, we lose too much weight too quickly, we muscle waste, and unfortunately then reduces metabolic rate. So basically the car just goes slower. And so with the least amount of muscle, we burn less energy. You can see it in the animal kingdom as well, like the amount of energy a very muscular animal will burn will be quite high because they have more muscle versus a lower muscle mass, human being, yeah, true, but animal will burn less energy. So ideally, if you want to burn fat, be able to eat more food, and not gain body fat easily, having more muscle is always a good thing. So we don't want to atrophy. The biggest problem I see with 8-week journeys and the encouragement of losing a large amount of weight very quickly is that it's just that focus. It's just lose the weight, just lose a number, an arbitrary number on the scale. And a lot of people will finish 8-week journeys and be happy-ish if they've, followed the plan and everything's gone accordingly. And there'll always be hiccups, don't get me wrong, through that process. But let's say we've got a person who's, lost whatever it is, 3 kilos, 5 kilos, 8 kilos, whatever it is, whatever round number you want to call it. And they will often get to the end of the 8-week journey and go, I feel skinny. I feel a bit like I've lost my bum. I feel like, I've got a lack of energy, etc. And so this is where you've got 8-week challenges that might be lined up, where they've got a meal plan that they give to everyone, or they might give a meal plan to all of the women and then a meal plan to all of the men, which is not what we do. And they might, for example, it might work for one or two of the men. Let's say there's 20 people in the challenge because it's the right calories for them, but not for the outliers, as I said. So there'll be men who weigh more than those men who will actually need slightly more calories. Otherwise, they'll atrophy. There will be women who, weigh less and they need slightly less calories, and so they won't see many results at all from these challenges. Or the calories are just too low. They're at a point where they're dropping them down to 1,000 calories, or I've seen some terrible ones, but not having carbs, whatever it might be. And so it becomes quite dangerous because obviously there's all sorts of health risks involved with not eating enough food. But then you see some people who will, go through this 8-week challenge, they'll lose all the weight, they'll be pretty good sticking to it, and then all of a sudden at the end of it, they start binging and eating their entire cupboard, or going and, buying a ton of junk food. And it's because they've been deprived for so long. So what we focus on in our 8-week journeys is balance, but balance doesn't mean you're not getting results. You may not have seen my stories when I post them. I talk about women who have lost, as little as say 2 or 3 kilos, and you might think that's not very much, but again, it's relative to body weight. A lot of these women who are following the plan to a T, going all the way through, losing 2 or 3 kilos, they're in those lower weight ranges, right? So percentage-wise, that's quite high for them. Then I've got women who might be above 100 kilos and they have lost 8 to 10 kilos. On average though, when I've got, women who start around 70, 80 kilos, if they follow it to plan, they lose around 5 to 6 kilos. So this is where it gets quite exciting, is that we know these results are expected, and we know that if you stick to the plan as much as possible, you're going to get them. We have repeatedly got them with these 8-week journeys. And the feedback that we get from them is phenomenal. I just read something yesterday which said, from one of the ladies who's signing up again, got these repeat signups. And she said, my whole family hasn't been sick for 8 weeks. I have more energy than ever. My clothes are fitting better than ever. My asthma is better than ever. And she had terrible energy levels when she first started. She wanted to feel better about herself. She wanted her clothes to fit better. And she was saying that her family was getting sick quite often. So it's like, we've literally solved the majority of her problems that she was struggling with, and now she's coming back for more because she loved it so much. This is only one example, but if you want to have a look at the testimonials on our website, client results, all that type of stuff. And I don't mean to be plugging myself heavily in this podcast, but I think it's important I talk about this stuff on a podcast so that people understand the changes that we can make in people's lives, and the potential we have to make a change in somebody that someone's life that you're in connection, where you've seen them go around this merry-go-round of dieting cycle, and they've, with an adamant attitude said to you, look, I'm going to do this juice cleanse, I'm going to pay $1,000 for this stupid product in a tub that isn't going to do anything, versus simply getting their diet very specifically right, which that's what we do, the meal planning or the macro tracking. You can choose to do either. And the great thing about tracking macros and calories is that it's not like weird science that, you know, is like some sort of witchery. It's actual factual science, mathematics, it's nutrition, it's dietetics, it's like what we learn in our university degree. And it is secret behind prolonged periods of being able to diet, take diet breaks, grow muscle. This is what athletes use. This is what nutritionists and dietitians use for Olympians, for elite sporting athletes on teams. Like, it is literally energy balance, and we program with, you know, micronutrients in mind as well, so fruits and vegetables, and the pyramid is too far from it, but it doesn't give you exact amounts that you need for your goals. So when this 8-week journey, that's why I don't call it an 8-week challenge. Some people like to call it a challenge, but when we talk about our 8-week journey, it's being sustainable, applying actual scientific methods backed by those who've studied degrees, certifications, like we're insured for this stuff. It's an important thing too to know is that if you go into 8-week challenge, really, I cannot stress enough, know your coaches, know whether your coaches are qualified, insured, registered. Chloe and myself are fully insured and registered and qualified coaches in nutrition specifically. The training side of things, Cert 3 and 4 is really easy to get. It really is. So I wouldn't necessarily think that your trainer is epic if they've got a Cert 3 and 4 in fitness. Everybody does. But definitely nutrition, valid nutrition qualifications. The place that they have their nutrition qualifications so far, the only solid provider in Australia is Sports Nutrition Australia that provides registration and insurance. So yeah, and then obviously we have the sister company as well, sister company over in UK, provider IOPN for performance nutrition, which is what I got my postgrad in. So long story short, sure, the people that are delivering what they're delivering are qualified sufficiently in nutrition specifically, training, yes, absolutely, but have the experience behind them as well. Because at the end of the day, anyone can whack a program together and pretend to whack a meal plan together, but they really need to know how to do this in a way that preserves your health, allows for you to preserve muscle mass, preserves your energy levels, allows for you to still have that balance of well-being and your mental health, keeping that intact as well, and basically not burning to the ground your relationship with food. So some people, as I said previously, can do really well in challenges and 8-week journeys. I like to just throw in the fact that ours is not necessarily called a challenge, but you can call it that if you want to. Some people do better than others, right? So psychologically, people get really excited when they first start something. They're like, oh my God, it's the start of my new life. Woo, yeah, like I'm starting fresh. And so they often romanticize the first few weeks of an 8-week journey, maybe even the first few days. And I have seen this before. It wouldn't matter how much information you give people, how much you want to help them, how much you show up for them. Even in our fortnightly Q&A webinars, I'm always there. You know, it's like, it doesn't matter how much you want to give to people. Oftentimes they will go back and self-sabotage. So that's that crash and burn concept. Sometimes it takes a couple of days, and it does happen for everybody in every facet. There will always be the ones that coaches don't talk about in 8-week challenges or journeys, especially those large volume number ones where they get like 100 signups. It's like, I'm going to guarantee you that at least 70 of them are not going to follow that plan correctly. Like, that's usually the large percentage of it, right? And then at least 50% will drop off quite early in the first 2 weeks. So it's important to know though, across these 8-week journeys or 8-week challenges, that you are going to have setbacks. It would be silly to say the next 8 weeks will just clear, your calendar will clear itself and nothing bad will occur just because you want to do an 8-week journey or an 8-week challenge. The reality of the matter is, you know, we see things like people get sick, people get little niggles or injuries, which we manage for them as they go. That's the other thing. If you get injured or sick in an 8-week challenge, I find that a lot of coaches, because they're coaching a large group, they just tend to forget about or leave behind those who are not excelling. So they don't check in on them. They don't do like group check-ins. They don't necessarily have any sort of solutions or any sort of assistance or support in the situations where they get injured or they become sick. And so this is where we do that troubleshooting. The Q&As, we have unlimited communications with Coach Chloe. You can reach out to me as well. And so we really just make sure that we've got a really nice, strong fortress around our girls and guys when they sign up, to know that they can always talk to us, never feel ashamed. never feel like they've failed. We really encourage them to know that shit happens, and that it's all about resetting and starting fresh as soon as you can, not just for Monday, and knowing that in an 8-week period, you're going to write off a couple days, maybe a week. Everybody does. Even our winners have setbacks, and anyone I've done before and after results for, even the ones who've lost up to 25 kilos, even more, right, across multiple journeys, they could tell you stories of all the things that happened whilst they were doing the 8-week journey. So what's really crucial and important is that you go into an 8-week challenge, no matter whether you're signing up with us or somebody else, knowing that it's not going to look picture perfect. It shouldn't, but it should look as good as it could in any instance that you can put that effort in. So when you can't, you physically can't, it's okay, forgive yourself. When you can, it's about getting back up again quite fast and getting past that setback was. How to tell if a program is worth your investment, okay? So that was one of the talking points. Certainly it's difficult to know from the outside because there's a lot of mess. Oftentimes they'll tell you things like, they'll promise stuff, you know, they'll go like, get results fast and lose this and the. It's like, you do actually, I know it's hard, but take the time to look at the details included in the package. Do you get a bespoke, personalized or tailored, fully tailored program, your equipment to you and your needs? Could you reach out and ask for changes if need be? Oftentimes people sign up, they're too deep and they go, shit, I realize now that I don't get very much support. That takes me to the second point. Do you get support, one-on-one support? Is it actually, this is one, is it actually with the coach that you've signed up with? And most commonly, again, if you've got 50 plus in a particular challenge, oftentimes not. So sometimes they might do a Q&A and it might be a group one and they've got 50 in it and, you know, maybe 20 show up or whatever it might be. But there are going to be industry coaches who have gotten too big and they have what's called ghost writers, or they have people who answer their DMs for them that are basically talking to you on behalf of that coach. Now, if you're totally okay with that, that's fine, but this is how a lot of these coaches can step back completely, not touch anything, not do any work, not do any programming, not show up for the Q&As. You know what I mean? Like, all of this stuff is just basically done for them, and that's how they can bring in the masses, is they're just literally reproducing the same thing over and over again. Doesn't mean their program is any better than, say, our program or another program from another coach. No. And I will even say that, you know, you could sign up with a coach that has an 8-week journey. They've got a cap of maybe 15, 20 people in it. Actually having a smaller number in the group is a good sign, especially if they're capping these groups and going, look, we're only taking this many. Because, and you know they're only taking that many because when you look in the group chats, there is only 10 or 15 in there. Because anything past that volume, unless you've got like 3, 4, 5 coaches on board, is just not manageable. And certainly not from a personalized perspective. You've got to think about it as well from a cost perspective. If you are paying $20 to $30 per week for a subscription service, especially like an 8-week challenge subscription service, from a very well-known, you know, entrepreneurial fitness influencer, you've got to think to yourself, how much time would they be able to give me in their week and the other 300 people they've got on their books? Like, realistically, give yourself that thought. Probably not a lot. And also, it's always what you always pay for what you get, right? This recent intake, we've just decided, because there's a lot of people obviously broke from Christmas, we totally get it. We're like, you know what? We're gonna probably lose money on this, but that's okay. We've waived the setup fee, which it takes us time to do all this setup. So we're losing money there. We've waived the meal plan fee. We're giving the 8th week free as well. So it works out to be like $49 per week for 8 weeks or something when it's spread across the 8 weeks. And to give you an idea, like, it would take Chloe and I a couple hours to do a training program, like depending on how complex it is, a couple of hours to do a meal plan. So if we've got, 10 people in our intake, that's a decent amount of hours being put into this. And so then we've got communications on top of that as well. When we are personally answering people, back and forth, doing the Q&As, that's an hour every fortnight, all of this adds up. And so unless that influential coach is working for $2 an hour, maybe even less, I don't know, it's not them. You're not talking to them. It's not even them delivering the product. And so you have to be really careful that you're not just paying for the face of a product and that you're actually paying for the person's expertise. Of course, some of these challenges, if they are cheaper, can be great for those who've got experience, who aren't beginners, who just want something to adhere to and you know, they tend to be like an all-rounder. So a person who can follow any training program, who can follow any meal plan, don't care what it looks like, eats anything and everything. If that's the case, absolutely. If you're a person who really doesn't need, you think you don't need personalized, which is actually interesting because everybody does, especially your meal plan, especially your nutrition requirements, that for every single person must be personalized, because you cannot just take a general, you know, mean average and go, okay, well, this is what everybody can have, right? But if you think you're a person who can do that, then by all means, you know, try, but I can guarantee that you're only going to get a certain result, and then you'll eventually reach a point where you can't keep progressing. So this is just full transparency and honesty. Again, not shitting on other people, but I never wanted to make Fierce, I guess, like, I don't ever want to lose sight of the fact that it is about as being as personalized as possible, being as affordable as physically possible, while still giving that personalized approach for clients. And obviously not to the point where we're working for $2 an hour. Back to that topic of making sure you know what's included in the 8-week challenge, whether it's worth your money. That's the other part of it too, is that sometimes people can overcharge, and you'll often see this where they will boast about all of the personalized aspects of an 8-week challenge and the things that they'll do for you that are individualized, and in I suppose hindsight, like it's actually not there. So it's hard to know, because for a lot of people, they don't have that background knowledge of what personalized would look like, or what a personalized meal plan would look like. But you only really have to look at whether or not they're happy to tailor to the equipment you've got, especially if you're a complex case and you train from home, or you've only got certain types of equipment, or if you've got an injury or whatever it might be, and then they just don't tailor for that and they tell you to make the adjustments yourself. Or your meal plan, they do a meal plan for you and you say to them, look, you've included foods that I don't like, or you know, you're not getting the results. You're following the macros, the calories, you're doing the exercise, you're doing the steps, and nothing is happening. You're kind of just sitting there and maintaining or even gaining body fat. So it's pretty easy to eventually figure out it's not tailored to you, because if you are following it 100% and not getting results, it's not tailored to you. If the meal plan has food on it that you don't want to eat, or you've explained that you don't like, it's not tailored to you. If the training program is too hard, it's impossible to perform the exercises, and you reach out and you don't get that communication support, then it's not tailored to you, and they're not even going to want to tailor that to you or make those changes. So I have even had feedback from some people who have signed up for massive influencers who've come over to my coaching books and have said, I signed up and the communication was terrible. I would send an email and I wouldn't get an email back for a week. I would send an email and I'd get a 2-word response. There was no sort of face-to-face stuff. There was no, the great thing with the 8-week journey that we do, we've got those Q&A webinars. My face is in it. I'm literally there in person. One-on-one check-ins that I do, it's a Loom, it's my voice. It's not just some sort of random type response. So the more that you see big influencers doing these 8-week challenges, the more they're going to have to scale. I've been at a point where I have to scale with my business and hire a coach, which means that I don't profit as much. But it's a point where I wanted to get to where I could help more people and not feel like I was under an insurmountable amount of pressure, whereby my quality of work was reduced. So oftentimes people can make decisions, coaches can make decisions where they're not greedy, they want to help more people, they want to be able to offer their services to more people because they're getting more popular, people are finding out about them, they want it to still be personalized, and they will usually hire another coach. If you see a person who it's just them and they have no coaches underneath them, sometimes they can balance and juggle it all, and they might have some automated stuff going on, which is awesome. But there's only so far that will go as well. And let's say that they're big, they've got thousands of clients, hundreds of clients. Just remember, there are only so many hours in a day for a person to be able to attend to those clients and to be able to give that quality work. So when there is a service offered in an 8-week challenge or 8-week journey, it's so important to know where the service sits on that sliding scale. And this is why I created the Fierce 8-week journey, is I wanted to bridge that gap, and I wanted to create something that was suitable for those who couldn't afford one-on-one coaching, that wanted a group environment, but wanted it to be personalized and tailored. And that was how it was born. And we get all sorts of amazing people. We get postpartum, a lot of postpartum women now, woohoo! Women who are breastfeeding, everything. And you know, I've got on my books now more postpartum mothers, which is amazing. But it's nice to see that they've got faith in us. Chloe and I are both mothers, so we do understand. And even those who don't have children, because both Chloe and I were at a point where we didn't have children as well in our lives. So yeah. And obviously the other part of it is you need to know what the importance of what happens after the challenge. So for us, we like to give our clients as many skills as possible so that once they're finished, they don't feel like they're dropping off the face of the earth. They don't feel as though that they don't have enough education to continue. We give them enough tools to be able to do it on their own. A lot of the time we get them sign up again, but a lot of the time they then go, cool, I know what I'm doing. I'm pretty self-accountable. I think I can do this by myself. And it's actually a celebration. Chloe and I get really excited when someone says that because we think, okay, our job is done. That is another really cool component of what I do as a coach is I do not try to hold people to me. The problem with a lot of PTs in gyms and people who are not nutrition qualified is that they'll kind of dangle that carrot in front of you like, yeah, I can give you nutrition guidance, but I can't give you a full meal plan. Or I'll give you a meal plan, but I won't tell you how I do it. Or I won't give you the tools to be able to do your own meal plan. And so this is where you've got this restrictiveness with coaching where a coach is like they're gatekeeping secrets and they're not giving you enough knowledge and enough advice or even enough education, which then enables you to sustain your results or maintain them, basically so that you are reliant upon them. I just think it's dodgy and it's just not the way I like to carry myself. I know people come back to me because I have taught them as much as they need to know, and it's oftentimes just for their accountability and for someone else to map out a plan for them and to take that what we call mental load off their shoulders. So that's one of the major motivators, I think, where people come back to me that have their skill sets, is that it's not necessarily they need to learn more, but more so they need the support to go through that process. So that's another benefit of an 8-week journey, is literally having someone to be accountable to. You could set yourself as many goals as you like for the next 8 weeks, but the likelihood of you achieving those on your own statistically is quite low, unless you're super self-accountable and you've done that in the past. When you have a team behind you, when you have a coach behind you, it's our job to be able to pick you up when you fall down and to be able to be there when you're not doing so well, and when you're doing well to congratulate and celebrate with you as well, because that actually helps to keep you going. So it's kind of like fuel to your fire. But anyway, I'm going to finish up. I did say this was going to be nice and short, but it's definitely not been that way. Pretty normal for me. So look, honestly, if you are considering stepping into an 8-week journey and you've been on the fence about it, hopefully this podcast has just given you enough information to make informed decisions, because this is not just about signing up with me. Obviously, I'm going to plug myself in this because I'm so passionate about it, and I've designed this 8-week journey. The feedback we've had from this is I've never done anything like this. This is amazing. So of course I'm going to plug myself, but no matter which way you're going, what coach you're going with, what direction you're going with please don't let the excitement overrule the idea that you need to be going into something that is quality, that is long-term, that is not short-term, and that ask yourself the question, can I sustain this after the challenge, or am I going to go back to eating the old food and the old ways I was, what I was doing before? Because trust me when I say, if you do that, you will just gain back the body fat, or you will just go back to having low muscle mass. It's the same shit over and over again. 8 weeks is not a band-aid for a bullet hole. It is certainly, though, a key to unlock a door to a new future. So anyway, that is it from me. Thanks a lot for tuning in and for listening. Really do appreciate it. Looking forward to doing another podcast for you soon. Bye.